What if the real reason your legs are getting weaker after 60 is not aging itself, but advice you have trusted for years? If standing up from a chair feels harder than it used to. If climbing stairs now takes more effort. If walking even a short distance makes your legs feel less steady than they did 2 or 3 years ago. There is a real reason for that. And chances are, it is not the reason most people online keep repeating. You may have heard people say that weak legs after 60 happen because you are missing a few cheap vitamins that nobody wants to tell you about. That idea gets attention. It spreads fast. And honestly, it sounds comforting. Because if the problem were just a hidden vitamin, then the solution would be easy. But here is the truth. That explanation is mostly wrong. And if you keep following bad advice long enough, you do not just waste money. You risk losing the exact thing you are trying to protect: your strength, your balance, and your independence. I'm Dr. Anthony Fauci, and I work in mobility and healthy aging. In this video, I'm going to show you what the published research actually says about rebuilding leg strength after 60. Not internet hype. Not supplement marketing. Not miracle claims. Just the evidence. We are going to rank the most talked about solutions from least powerful to most powerful. And along the way, I'll show you 2 popular supplements the evidence does not strongly support. 1 supplement that can be dangerous if you take a blood thinner. And the 1 strategy that consistently does the most to rebuild leg strength after 60. Everything I mention here is based on named published studies, and you can list those studies in the description so viewers can look them up themselves. And before we begin, I want to hear from you. How old are you, and what 1 movement has become harder in the last year? Is standing up from a chair? Climbing stairs? Walking to the mailbox? Getting up from the floor? Tell me in the comments. I read them, and what people are struggling with helps shape the videos I make next. Now let's begin with number 5, because this is the one almost every video on this topic gets backwards. Number 5, vitamin D, but only if you are actually low, and only at the right dose. Let's start with something important. Vitamin D does matter for muscle health. That part is true. There are vitamin D receptors in muscle tissue, and low vitamin D status is associated with weaker legs, poorer physical performance, and a higher risk of falls in older adults. So yes, deficiency matters. But this is exactly where many videos stop being helpful. Because they take one true idea and turn it into bad advice. The bad advice is this. More is always better. High doses are the answer. And taking it at night somehow makes it work better. That is not what the research shows. A large network meta-analysis published in BMC Geriatrics in 2024 reviewed 35 randomized controlled trials involving nearly 59,000 participants. The conclusion was not that everyone should take huge doses of vitamin D. The conclusion was much more specific. Vitamin D at around 800 to 1,000 international units per day was associated with a lower risk of falls in older adults, with the clearest benefit in people who were deficient to begin with. That means 800 to 1,000. Not 4,000. Not megadoses. Not the more the better. And now here is the part that should really change how you think about this. The STURDY trial, published in Annals of Internal Medicine, enrolled 688 adults aged 70 and older who already had low vitamin D levels and an increased risk of falling. They were randomly assigned to take 200 IU per day, 1,000 IU per day, 2,000 IU per day, or 4,000 IU per day. Now most people would assume the higher doses worked better. They did not. In fact, compared with the 1,000 IU group, the 2,000 IU and 4,000 IU groups had higher rates of falling. Think about that for a second. The bigger dose did not protect them more. It may have made outcomes worse. So when someone online tells older adults to take 4,000 units of D3 every night to strengthen their legs, understand this. A randomized trial in older adults actually tested that idea. And the higher dose groups did worse, not better. So what is the smart approach? Simple. Ask your doctor for a 25-hydroxy vitamin D blood test. If you are low, correct it at a modest daily dose under proper guidance. If your level is already normal, taking more does not automatically give you stronger legs. And no, taking it at bedtime is not some secret trick. Vitamin D is fat-soluble, so what matters more is taking it with a meal that contains some fat and doing it consistently. That is the real takeaway. Not timing. Not hype. Just consistency and the right dose. So yes, vitamin D belongs on the list. But only in the right context. Now let's move to number 4, because this one is closer to being right in many videos, but still often handled in the wrong way. Number 4, vitamin B12 and why guessing is the mistake. B12 deficiency in older adults is real. And it is common. Published estimates suggest deficiency is seen in roughly 6% of adults under 60, but rises to around 20% in adults over 60. In people with type 2 diabetes, the number can be even higher. And here is one detail that almost nobody talks about enough. If you take metformin, your risk of B12 deficiency goes up significantly. An analysis using the National Institutes of Health All of Us database, covering nearly 15,000 adults with type 2 diabetes, found that long-term metformin users had a 67% higher likelihood of B12 deficiency than non-users, even after adjusting for other factors. Now, why does that matter for your legs? Because B12 helps maintain the myelin sheath, the protective covering around your nerves. When that covering starts to break down, the signal traveling from your brain to your muscles becomes less efficient, less clear, and less reliable. And often the first signs show up in the feet and legs. You may notice a numbness, pins and needles, a strange change in how the floor feels under your feet, a reduced awareness of where your feet are, or feeling more unsteady, especially in the dark. Picture a 72-year-old man who has been on metformin for years. He starts holding the handrail on stairs he used to take without thinking. He tells himself, I guess this is just aging. Maybe it is. But maybe it is not. Maybe it is a blood test away from an answer. Now this is where I want to be very direct. Do not self-diagnose this with a supplement bottle. Because B12 deficiency can look very similar to a diabetic neuropathy, spinal stenosis, nerve compression, or other conditions that need completely different treatment. If you self-supplement too early, you may partially blur the picture while the real cause keeps getting worse. And sometimes the cause of B12 deficiency matters just as much as the deficiency itself. If the problem is poor absorption, low stomach acid, or pernicious anemia, oral tablets may not be enough. Some people need injections. So the correct sequence is not, my feet feel funny, let me buy B12 gummies. The correct sequence is, test first, identify the cause, then treat properly with your doctor. That is the difference between guessing and actually solving the problem. So yes, B12 matters. But blind supplementation is not the smart move. Those are the two vitamins most worth testing thoughtfully. Now we move into a category that gets far less attention online, probably because there is nothing exciting to sell you, even though it can make a much bigger difference than most supplements ever will. Number 3, protein, in the right amount, and spread through the day. This one sounds simple. Almost too simple. But do not underestimate it. As we age, muscles become less responsive to the protein we eat. Researchers often call this anabolic resistance. What that means in plain English is this. The same meal that may have helped maintain muscle at 40 may no longer be enough to do the same job at 70. That is why the standard minimum recommendation of 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is often too low if your goal is not just to avoid deficiency, but to actually protect strength and muscle function. Expert groups such as the ProAge Study Group and ESPN recommend around 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram per day for healthy older adults, and in some cases more for older adults dealing with illness or recovery. Let's make that practical. If you weigh about 70 kilograms, or roughly 154 pounds, that means around 70 to 84 grams of protein per day. A lot of older adults are not even close to that. Many are getting closer to 40 grams a day. And here is the part most people miss. It is not just the total amount that matters. It is also how you spread it out. Your muscles do not store up protein response all day and cash it in at dinner. So if breakfast is tea and toast, lunch is very light, and dinner is the only meal with a real protein source, then you may be spending most of the day below the threshold your muscles need. A smarter approach is to spread protein across all 3 meals. Aim for roughly 25 to 30 grams per meal, depending on your needs and your doctor's advice. That could look like eggs or Greek yogurt at breakfast, a cottage cheese, lentils, beans, chicken, fish, tofu, or yogurt at lunch, and a proper protein source again at dinner. This is not glamorous advice. It will not go viral like miracle supplement claims. But for many adults over 60, simply correcting chronic undereating of protein is one of the highest yield changes they can make for preserving and rebuilding leg strength. So before you chase the latest trendy pill, ask yourself this. Are my muscles even getting enough building material to respond? Now let's go to number 2, because this one surprises a lot of people. Number 2, creatine monohydrate, but only as an add-on to training. Creatine has an image problem. A lot of people over 60 hear the word creatine and instantly think, that is for young men in the gym. But in reality, Creatine is one of the most studied supplements we have, and a meaningful amount of that research includes older adults. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Sports Medicine reviewed 22 randomized controlled trials involving 721 participants, with average ages across studies ranging from 57 to 70. Participants took creatine or placebo while doing resistance training 2 to 3 days per week for anywhere from 7 to 52 weeks. The creatine groups gained more lean tissue mass and also showed greater improvements in measures like chest press and leg press strength. That sounds promising.
And it is.
But let me give you the honest version, not the exaggerated version. The evidence is not unanimous. A 2025 meta-analysis in Nutrients found that when the results were separated by age, the strength benefit was clear in younger adults, but not statistically significant in older adults. So what is the fair summary? Here it is. Creatine may provide a modest benefit in some older adults, especially for lean mass, and possibly for strength in some cases. But it is not magic.
And more importantly,
it does almost nothing by itself. That is the part many people miss. In the studies where creatine helped, the participants were training. They were not just taking powder and waiting for stronger legs to appear. Creatine is an amplifier. It is not the engine. And that takes us directly to the most powerful part of this entire discussion. If you take only one thing from this video, make it this. Number 1, resistance training, the intervention that actually changes the direction.
This is the big one.
Resistance training is the intervention that actually helps change the trajectory of leg weakness.
Not just slow decline.
Actually help rebuild strength. Nothing else on this list comes close. Inactive adults commonly lose muscle mass over time, and strength often declines even faster than muscle size does. That is what makes a low chair feel lower every year. That is what makes stairs feel steeper. That is what slowly shrinks your confidence and your independence. But progressive resistance training is one of the main interventions recommended in clinical guidance for preventing and reversing sarcopenia. And yes, it works in people in their 70s, 80s, and beyond. Let me say that again clearly. Older muscle still responds. Maybe not as fast as it did at 35.
But it responds.
That means weakness is not always a one-way road. And that is exactly why this matters. This is the part many supplement-heavy videos quietly downplay.
Because you cannot bottle it.
You cannot sell it as a miracle. And it requires consistency. But it works. So what does resistance training actually look like for someone over 60? It does not have to mean a barbell. It does not require a gym membership.
And it
does not mean trying to train like a 25-year-old athlete.
It can start at home.
Examples include a sit-to-stands from a chair, a heel raises while holding a countertop,
step-ups on the bottom stair, a wall sits,
a resistance band leg presses, a resistance band leg curls, a supported mini squats. Even 2 to 3 sessions a week, around 20 to 30 minutes, can matter. But there is one rule that matters more than everything else.
Progression.
If week 8 feels exactly like week 1, then your muscles have no reason to adapt. You are moving, yes. But you are no longer training improvement. Muscles respond to demand. If the demand rises gradually, your body gets the message. If the demand never rises, neither does your strength. So here is the strategy. Start lower than you think you need to.
Be safe. Be consistent. Write it down.
Then increase a little every week or 2. That increase might be
a few more reps,
or a slower lowering phase, or a slightly lower chair,
or an extra set, or a stronger resistance band.
That slow build is what gets results.
Not hype. Not shortcuts.
Not one weird vitamin. Just proper loading, proper progression, and consistency. And if you are still with me right now, comment the word stronger below, because this next part may protect some people from making a real mistake. What to avoid. Part 1. Vitamin K2, especially -7 Malawian kwaches if you take warfarin. This is not just about wasting money. For some people, this is a real medication safety issue. Vitamin K can directly interfere with warfarin, also known as Coumadin, because it activates clotting factors that warfarin is specifically designed to suppress. And the -7 Malawian kwaches form matters here because it has a relatively long half-life, around 72 hours, which means it can accumulate in the body. Research on low-dose -7 Malawian kwaches and vitamin K antagonist therapy found measurable effects on INR even at relatively low doses. That matters because many supplement videos recommend 100 to 200 micrograms, while measurable INR effects have been observed at lower amounts. So if you take warfarin, this is not something to casually add because a video told you it helps bones or muscles. If you are on warfarin and thinking about taking vitamin K in any form, that needs to be a conversation with your prescriber or anticoagulation clinic.
Full stop.
Now, yes, newer blood thinners such as apixaban and rivaroxaban work differently and do not have this same interaction. But the larger point still stands. The exact population being targeted by these supplement claims is often the same population most likely to be taking interacting medications. So this is exactly where medical supervision matters. What to avoid Part 2, Magnesium for night cramps. This is another one you hear everywhere. Take magnesium for leg cramps. It is one of the most common recommendations online. But in older adults with ordinary nocturnal leg cramps, the evidence is not very convincing. A Cochrane systematic review looked at magnesium for skeletal muscle cramps and found that in older adults with night cramps, magnesium did not provide a clinically meaningful reduction compared with placebo.
In simple terms,
it is widely recommended, but not strongly supported by the evidence. And participants taking magnesium were also more likely to report minor side effects, especially gastrointestinal issues. Now if someone has a documented magnesium deficiency, that is a different situation. But that is a medical issue. Not a blanket solution for every cramp. And I want to say one more thing here, because this is the framing trick behind a lot of supplement videos. If someone tells you that cheap vitamins are being hidden from you because they work too well, they are asking you to trust suspicion instead of evidence. And notice how often those same videos end by recommending a product. That is not rebellion. That is marketing. Red flags, when this is not a supplement problem at all. Before I close, I want to mention a few warning signs that mean leg weakness should not be treated like a nutrition question first. Please get prompt medical evaluation if you have a weakness clearly worse on one side, a leg pain that comes on reliably after walking a certain distance and improves with rest, a new numbness with changes in bladder or bowel control, a sudden weakness rather than slow gradual decline, a major swelling in one leg, or weakness that started soon after beginning a new medication, especially a statin. Those are not wait and try a supplement situations. Those deserve proper medical attention. Delay can cost more than money.
Final recap.
So here is the whole picture. If you want stronger legs after 60, do not guess. Do not chase the loudest claim. And do not confuse a supplement stack with an actual plan. Test vitamin D and B12 if your doctor believes it is appropriate, and correct deficiency properly if it exists. Raise your protein intake into a range that actually supports older muscle. Consider creatine only as a possible add-on, never a replacement for the real work. And most importantly, train your legs against resistance 2 to 3 times a week, with gradual progression, because that is still the most powerful tool we have for rebuilding strength after 60. And here is something practical you can do tonight.
Sit down in a chair.
If it is safe for you, cross your arms over your chest. Now stand up and sit down as many times as you can without using your hands.
Count the number. Write it down.
Then test it again in 2 weeks. That number may tell you more about where your legs are heading than almost any supplement bottle sitting in your kitchen. So now I want to hear from you. What is your sit-to-stand number today? And what movement do you most want to get back? And if you are on warfarin and have been taking, or even thinking about taking, K2, please make that a conversation with your doctor this week, not next month. That one is worth the phone call.
Disclaimer.
This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your diet, supplements, medications, or exercise routine.